In the last stream, we were working on completing the second to last questline in the questbook here. We completed the Void Tech questline when we set up our automation for these voided Technium Ingots. And the plan for today's stream is going to be to try and get as far through this final questline as we possibly can. This final questline consists of 10 mod mastery quests, each of which we have to complete 16 times because the final quest is to hand in 16 final Technium Ingots. I'm going to bookmark this recipe right here because this is our final goal. We have to complete this crafting recipe 16 times and then we will have completed the pack. Now, the very first thing that we're going to have to work on in today's stream is dye, because up until this point, we've kind of been ignoring dye ore. If we go back to the Ores Are Us questline, there is a quest to buy dye ore. It costs 8 tech books and it gets 36 dye ore, and the dye ore, it's a pretty low tier dye. It only requires a tier 5 support frame, but up until this point, we have not actually purchased any because up until this point, we have not actually needed it. However, if we look at this quest here, we need 4 quantum compressed dye for every final Technium Ingot. And as a reminder, we need 16 final Technium Ingots, and so we need a grand total of 64 quantum compressed dye. Each quantum compressed dye is made, you guessed it, in a quantum compressor, and to make it, we need 1024 regular dye base per quantum compressed dye, which means in total we need just over 64,000 dye base in order to make the 64 quantum compressed dye, and the dye base is made by smelting dye ore in a jumbo furnace. And so we need about 128,000 dye ore before we can make 16 final Technium Ingots. And so what I've gone ahead and done between streams is I've built yet another layer to our platform down here because I did a bit of number crunching, and it turns out that if we build 18 miners, all going as fast as they possibly can, that means all kitted out with beacons to make them as fast as possible, we should be able to get the 130-ish thousand dye ore that we need in about an hour, which is going to be ideal. And so the plan here is to make a bunch of the tier 5 support frame. Thankfully, the tier 5 support frame is the support frame that just requires iron ingots and sticks, and between streams we did manage to pass through the 1 million mark when it comes to our total number of iron ingots, so we are not shy on iron at all. And on top of that, we're also going to have to get some more tech books so that we can actually buy this dye ore. Now, to do that, we do have to first unlock the research paper for dye ore, and for that, we need 4 blue dye, 4 advanced Technium Ingots, and 1 blank research paper. That seems very doable. In fact, I thought we might have the stuff, but alas, we do not. That is fine. Let's quickly craft 3 more blue dye. Boom, and boom, with the 8 tech books, gets us the ability to purchase it, but now I don't know if we have enough tech books to actually purchase it. We do not. We are down to 0 tech books. That is fine. Of course, we can make more tech books using any of our matters here. I think we'll go with the ultimate for the time being. I'm going to buy a couple of sets of the dye ore, but I'm not going to buy all 18 sets because once we have the first couple down, we should be able to start generating more dye ore pretty quickly. And from there, we should be able to kind of spiral into getting the rest of them down fairly quickly as well. Now, one thing we've not used for a little while here is the structure placer from the miners mod, but I think this is going to make it a lot easier for us to get all of these miners down. And just like everywhere else, I do want to leave a 2-block gap between our oak pillars and the actual miners themselves, which I believe means that our corner pillar is going to go here? No, here? I think that's right. There's 2 there, and there's 2 there. So if I put that there, can I then ideally not break the floor entirely? This atomic disassembler is far too powerful sometimes, but let's quickly fill that in. And then if I right-click here, and by right-click, I mean first shift right-click to placing miner frame, then I right-click here, that should build the frame for me. It does. We can then go over to here, right-click again, it builds another one, and then we should just be able to keep going with that. And it should eventually build the entire setup. Sometimes it doesn't put everything down. I'm not quite sure why. Like, it's not put this one right here. But for the most part, if you give it at least a few clicks, it sometimes gets the job done, and we're essentially just going to build out the entire ring that we did previously on our previous levels, but this time we're going to fill every single one of these rings with die ore, and then we're going to use a jumbo furnace because, again, much like with the moon ores and the Mars ores and the Venus ore, this can only be smelted in a jumbo furnace. You can't smelt it in any of the induction smelters or pulverizers that we've been using up until this point, and so we're going to have to set up yet another jumbo furnace specifically for the production of the die, and then once we have that up and running, we can start looking at some of the other requirements for completing this final Technium questline. Alright, so we've got all of the frames down, and over here we've got the first miner up and running. This is ready to go and ready to produce the die ore. Right now, of course, it's going at the slowest speed possible, 1 ore every 11 seconds, but we can make that faster if we top it with beacons. Now, to make the beacons, we of course need nether stars. Right now, thankfully, we do have quite a large amount of elite mob essence, and so if my calculations are correct, I think we need 48 nether stars in order to make 48 beacons, which we can then use to get all of these running at the maximum speed. As per usual, I'm going to leave these middle ones empty as kind of like little walkways that we can use, but all the rest are going to be filled up, and that's going to give us a total of 20 of these die ore miners, which should be more than enough to get us a decent amount of die ore very quickly. And from there, we'll go ahead and take a jumbo furnace. We'll place that jumbo furnace somewhere in the center of the platform, so probably right about there. And then, of course, we'll fill that up with more jumbo furnaces. We'll get even more furnaces to fill that up with even more jumbo furnaces. And then from there, we can then, of course, send over some coal, pool all of the die all together into here, and then we'll just have all of the die sent back around to a storage drawer up in our main drawer area. So we'll put a drawer down over here somewhere. We'll make sure that that drawer has a drawer upgrade in it, because the emerald drawer upgrade, aka the tier 5 drawer upgrade here, is actually perfect because this increases the base storage by 32 times, and 2048, which is the base amount of storage, multiplied by 32 gets you to 65,536, which is the exact amount of die that we need in order to make all of the quantum compressed die, because if you take 65,536 and divide it by 1024, which is the amount of die required per quantum compressed die, you get 64. And so it works out perfectly that if this drawer gets full of die, we then have enough die to make all of the quantum compressed die to make the final Technium. And so we're going to start making more beacons. We're then going to start taking those beacons and, of course, placing them down on all of these miners like this to make them nice and fast. And then as the ore comes in here, we're then going to start recycling that ore initially into more miners. And then once we have all of the miners set up, we can then start pumping all of the ore through this jumbo furnace here, which I think should be fast enough, especially if we can kit it out with 64 jumbo furnace upgrades to process all of the ore in real time and start getting us all of that die that we're going to need for the final Technium. All right, and a little while later, we now have everything up and running. It turns out one jumbo furnace was just not going to be enough, and so we've set up 4 jumbo furnaces, 1 in each corner of the platform, and you'll see these are all filling up nice and quickly with die ore. We've put down all the extractors, we've got all the belts feeding into these rapid hoppers. On the sides, we've got an exporter that is exporting blocks of coal, and we've got on the bottom a filtered importer that is going to import the die base. Right now, it's importing the die base very slowly, too slowly, in fact, to the point where you'll see right here, we are starting to back up on all of these. I've been having to periodically take some of these die bases out to give us space to smelt more. So to fix that, we could do with getting a few more speed and stack upgrades for these pipes. Ideally, we want, I think, at least 4 stack upgrades here. We definitely should have, I think, some more network cable, but if not, that's fine. We can definitely make some more, like so. And then let's go ahead and get 2, 3, 4, and then ideally also we could get quite a few of these speed upgrades as well. Let's go for 8 for the time being and see how well that works out. So if I do 1 of these and 2 of these, is that enough? That looks like more than enough. Yes. Okay, so we'll do that on all 4 of these furnaces. Each one is going to get 2 speed upgrades and 1 stack upgrade. Not in there, we want it in here. And that should hopefully make it fast enough to pull out all of the die base as it is made, which is good. That's exactly what we want it to do. And with that, I think we're now good to go. I think the jumbo furnace is fast enough. I think having 4 of them, we did some number crunching, 4 of them should be enough to where we are comfortably processing all of the die ore. Like, we shouldn't be backing up on die ore. There is a little bit of backlog here, but I think that's going to dissipate. You'll see here we're not backing up at all. Over here, we're also not backing up, and over here, we are not backing up. Fantastic. And so I think that we're good to go. And if we check the system, we're already at 10,000, and we only need 65,000. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. While that does its thing, we now need to pivot over and look at increasing the production of our voided Technium. Because, again, if we're going to make 16 final Technium ingots, we need to do 16 of each of the Mod Mastery books. Each Mod Mastery book requires a Mod Mastery paper, and each Mod Mastery paper requires a voided Technium. And so we need, I believe, 160 voided Technium so that we can get 16 lots of all 10 books. And if we're going to get 160 voided Technium, we need a lot of Nether Stars, but we also need a lot of Hellish Technium. Right now, we do have 64 Hellish Technium in here and a further 45. So we actually already have like 109, but we do need even more. And there are also a few other quests that do require even more voided Technium. For example, we need an extra 32 voided Technium to actually complete this recipe as well. And I believe right now, our limiting factor in terms of how fast we can produce the voided Technium is this right here. So the voided Technium obviously requires the Hellish Technium requires the Ultimate Technium, and the Ultimate Technium requires these infused crystalline gems, which are also required in order to make the atomic alloys, although right now it actually looks like our problem is Elite Essence, and here the problem is the Amethyst Shards. Interesting. This is fine because we do have spare resonant integral components, and we also have spare flux linkage amplifiers. And so if we quickly do something like that, we can hopefully make this a bit faster. We could also go ahead and increase the number of gems in here just to make sure that it's running basically all of the time. We want to try and get rid of as much downtime as possible. It's not like we're light on gems at this point. We've got a ton of them, and so we could really probably set this to a stack and it should be fine. It's also quite possible we might want to put some more speed and potentially stack upgrades into this exporter as well. That's one of those things that I've done a few times between streams. I've kind of gone around and put a couple of upgrades into a couple of different exporters. For example, I did it over here between streams. This exporter down here is now exporting all of this stuff a lot faster because I noticed that this was one of the bottlenecks that we were running into. And hopefully, now that the Amethyst Shards are coming in just that little bit faster, we should be able to maybe alleviate that bottleneck, although it might not be a terrible idea for us to set up a second or third or fourth induction smelter to produce these Amethyst Shards so that we can produce more Elite Technium. And then it's also potentially not a terrible idea for us to set up a second, third, and potentially fourth induction smelter for these crystalline gems as well, because they're used, again, in the making of atomic alloys and in the making of just the Ultimate Technium in general. And before the stream started, they were the limiting factor. It looks like it's transitioned now over to here with the Amethyst Shards taking longer now. So let's go ahead then, I guess, take a look at maybe just getting a few more induction smelters and making some of this faster, because once we've got enough voided Technium to make everything else happen, things should be pretty much good to go. The other thing that's going to limit our voided Technium production is Nether Stars. We do have what it takes to make quite a lot of Nether Stars now because we have a lot of this Elite Mob Essence, but as we saw before, we need at least 6,400 Elite Mob Essence if we're going to make enough Nether Stars to make 160 Voided Technium. And again, that's not including the extra 32 Voided Technium that we need for this here. We need closer to 200 Voided Technium to get all of these final Technium ingots made. And so we're definitely going to need more Elite Mob Essence. Right now, over here, this Essence Station takes 5 seconds to turn one basic ore Essence block into one of these advanced ore essence pieces. I forget the name of what they're called. Yeah, advanced ore essence pieces. So in theory, we would need quite a few. I think we need like 8 of these essence stations for every one of these essence stations. Because if we have 8 of these, this also takes 5 seconds, by the way, to turn one of these blocks into one of these. And so if we make 8 of the first here, so basically if we have 8 stations all turning basic ore essence blocks into advanced ore essence, we can then have 1 turning advanced ore essence blocks into elite ore essence, and then 1 turning elite ore essence into elite mob essence. So I think that's the plan, basically. I think we want to take the current essence station, and instead of just using 1, we want to use 8. So to do that, actually making the essence stations is not tricky at all. We should be able to make 7 more of these super easy. Now, the trickier part is distributing all of the essence upgraders that we need. But even then, I don't think that's going to be particularly difficult to do. We do have to figure out where in the world I'm going to put these. I did do a bit of base tidying between streams, so I've moved our energizing orb to the side here, and I've moved all of the kind of haphazard array of machines that we used to have kind of cobbled around our reactor. I've moved those over to here, and I've also tidied this platform up a little bit as well. I've got like a little section with all of the rogue machines at the back, and I've moved our cloches to the side and gotten rid of the metal press that we had here previously, because now the multi-servo press kind of does everything the metal press did before and more. And so I think I'm going to try and set a little area up over here. So I'm going to move over the pre-existing essence station that we have, and I think what we'll do is we will move this export bus elsewhere. So I'm going to take all those out, and I'm going to break this temporarily. What I think I'm then going to do is potentially put that export bus onto one of these drawers here, because we still do need to have an export bus that is set up to export these essence upgraders, because we need a constant supply of essence upgraders. The thing now, though, is that we need even more essence upgraders than we did previously. So I'm going to go ahead and say, you export to here. I am going to put a downgrade into there, because I don't want to be making thousands of these. I ideally only want to be making enough to actually keep things going. So what we'll do is we'll put in all of the acceleration cards and the crafting cards again, and that should hopefully fill this up with those essence upgraders. The idea here is that I don't really want to run an ME cable all the way over to here. We do, however, already have simple storage network cable over here, and so my thought process is that if we get another draw over here, what we should be able to do is place that draw down. Annoyingly, the way we've done this, there's no center because we're doing 8 of these essence stations and not like 7 or 9. So let's put the draw here, like this. And then using Laser IO, we should be able to distribute to all of these essence stations from this one draw. So my thought process is that if we put down an exporter on the bottom, we can then connect that exporter to our main system using yet more network cable, which apparently we are now fully out of. That is completely fine. It makes sense as well. I think we used all of it making these 30 some odd speed upgrades that we accidentally made earlier in the episode. That is fine. Let's make some more of these, and then let's run you across to our pre-existing cable like so. And then we're just going to tell this to export essence upgraders. So over here, the system, the AE2 system, is going to make and export those essence upgraders to here. Because this draw is connected to the draw controller and the simple storage network is also connected to the draw controller, the simple storage network is then going to see that we have them. It's going to export them over to here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make 8 more of the laser nodes. Ideally, if we have what it takes to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more of those. We do indeed. Fantastic. Boom. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like that. And then from there, we just need to get 1 item card and set that to extract. And crucially, we need to make sure that that extract card is set to round robin. So here, we're going to say extract, and we're going to say round robin true. And what that's going to do is that's going to extract all of the essence upgraders from this draw, which we'll go ahead and lock. And then if we put item insert cards onto all of the other essence stations here, that's going to go ahead and insert those essence upgraders into each of these, and it's going to do it one at a time. So it's going to put one in here, then 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 in here, and then of course it'll start from the beginning and keep going. And so it should hopefully keep all of these filled up with essence upgraders. At least that is the plan. Of course, to make that happen, we are going to have to get our laser wrench, and we are going to have to connect all these up. Like this, like this, like this, like this. I think you could connect them all to one, but I think it's going to look better if we do it like this. And so now, anything that ends up in here should get distributed to all of these stations. And so from there, all we need to do is actually grab some more Flux cable and run that around the back over here to connect this up. So if we go straight down through the floor and to our pre-existing cable, which should be just over here. Fantastic. That should now start requesting that these get made. Of course, that drawer is currently locked, and so if we want it to work, I'm going to have to take one of these out of here and place it into that drawer that we've just allocated as our essence upgrader drawer. And as soon as that happens, we should start to see more of these getting made to try and keep this drawer full of them. And then, of course, as soon as they're made, they should be instantly transported over to here. And so we should start to see these, hopefully, filling up with essence upgraders because we do have what it takes to make them. Other than that, all we need to do is put exporters onto all of these, And then from there, we just need to export the finished blocks. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to get rid of this essence station because it's no longer needed. And if we were to go ahead and just place another drawer here, that drawer is just going to start backing up on those basic ore blocks. And then from there, if we grab some more of the trim that we made previously, we should be able to somewhat haphazardly connect this up like that. So now the system should have access to the basic ore essence blocks because it should be able to connect them from that drawer through round to the drawer controller. And with that, we should then be able to just get more export cables and just tell the export cables to export directly to these machines over here. So if we put an export cable onto each one of these, we can then connect that up, and then we can tell each one of these to just export the basic ore essence blocks, and that should in turn produce for us all of the advanced ore essence, which we can then continue to process over on that first platform over there, because again, it takes 8 of these to run just one of those second tier essence stations. I did accidentally break a trim here. That's my bad. That's why things are not working. If I put that there, then we should start to see things kick into gear again. So now if I check for, yeah, so now we can see the basic ore essence blocks are connected, and chat is telling me we don't need downgrades on these because apparently they don't stack. And so I think a drawer should only be able to hold, I think it should hold like 16 potentially, even without the downgrade, but that's fine. And these are all set up correctly. That is fantastic. All we need to do then is just run a cable down from here like that to our pre-existing line, which we can do right about there. Fantastic. That should start to export the blocks. Again, it looks like this is fast enough, and it looks like it does all of them simultaneously, which is fantastic. And then from there, I think we can probably just put an import cable on the back of that, which should be fine as well. And in fact, this needs to stay here. That's fine. Over here, we no longer need this laser, I don't think, because this laser is only being used to move the old stuff from here, which is no longer the case. We're no longer needing this laser node. We also no longer need the laser node up at the top either, which is kind of perfect because it means we can get rid of this. And again, I'm going to shift and scroll to put this into a slower mode so I don't break everything. But from there, if we put another trim here, that connects this drawer also to the network. And so now if we get some more import cables, and again, we will go for the filtered import cables just because they are slightly more beneficial. It does mean we have to make the regular ones first, but that is completely fine. Let's do second batch and then 2 of these. If we go and put filtered import cables on the bottom of all of these, it should import them directly to that drawer that we just connected with trim, and that should continue to work in the same way that the previous system was working, but now it's going to be working just 8 times faster, and we're going to be fully saturating all of the machines. Whether or not this is going to be fast enough, that is a different question. Let me do this, 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 and this. So now we should start to see all of that advanced essence being pulled in as well. We do. And again, that should be going directly over to here. It is. Fantastic. And again, that should keep this saturated. Obviously, there's a bit of a backlog here because we had those working for a little while this was offline, but it's working 8 times faster now. Whether or not that's enough to get us to like the 6,400 elite mob essence that we need in a reasonable period of time is still kind of to be found out. Whoops, chat is right here. We do only have 7 down. I do need 8. That is my bad. Let me quickly add 1 more to the lineup here. This is the one that we broke initially, I think. All right, so after a little bit of number crunching, this is still not fast enough. At the current speed, we're producing effectively 1 of these elite mob essence every 5 seconds, which is a lot faster than what we had before, but it's still going to take about 2.5 hours at current speed to get up to 6,400 elite mob essence, which I think is just too slow. And so what I think I'm going to do is double up on these essence stations over here. We've got 8, we'll double that to 16. I think the easiest way for us to do that is just going to be to add another 8 to the back end of this. So if we just take 8 of these and we put them down over here, that saves making more of the laser nodes. We could just do, not there, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this one is not meant to be here. It could be here, but I think for symmetry, it makes more sense for it to be here, if we put those down and we do the same thing with the insert cards, the exporters, and the importers, we can double up the speed at which we are processing the basic or essence blocks. And then over here, all we'd have to do is double up on the number of essence stations at the bottom here. For that, what we could probably do is just kind of get rid of this hopper and instead put down 2 essence stations and use the hopper and use a laser node here instead, to distribute the blocks between 2 essence stations. And then the same is true here as well. We could use another laser node with the round robin to distribute between 2 more essence stations to get all of that automated. And that should double up the time and should take us from 2.5 hours down to 1.25 hours, so an hour and 15 minutes. And I think that's going to be much more reasonable, and then we can use that hour and 15 minutes to start working on all of the rest of the stuff that we need to process here. Okay, so I've made a few tweaks here. The first tweak is that I've put a sequential fabricator here instead of a basic auto crafting table, just because the basic auto crafting table was nowhere near fast enough to make the blocks quick enough to run 16 of these essence stations. Over here, all 16 of these are now up and running. They're all working to make the advanced mob essence. And then over here, what I've done is I have replaced the hopper here with a laser node. And basically, over here, I've put down a new frame drawer. This frame drawer is once again going to get the export bus like this so that we can send all of the essence upgraders to this drawer. And that allows us to then distribute them amongst the other converters. So over here, we've got the laser node. This laser node has a lot of cards in it. In the up slot, we have an extract card that's pulling all of the advanced or essence blocks down, and that is set to round robin. That is then inserting on this side, the west side, this card here, and also on the downside, this card here. We then have another insert card. This one is set to the orange channel, and that is for the essence upgrader. So on the east side here, which is the side that has the draw on it, that has an extract card right here. That extract card is set to round robin true, and it's set to channel 1. And so that extracts these guys that are being made and sent to here, and then divvies them up between these 2 machines. And of course, those are set to insert on the east side. That's the back side here, because you have to insert to the side, not the top or the bottom, for the essence upgrader to go in. Not a problem for this one, but for the bottom one here, obviously the insert card here is going into the top, so you need to specify that you want it to act like it's going in from the east, and then it puts it in the right slot. And then on top of that, we also have these item extract cards that are set to the purple channel. Those are all set to down, again, on both sides, on the west and on the bottom. And so we're extracting from both of these, and then we've connected this node here to this node here, and this node has an insert card for that channel 2 magenta insert. And so using this one node, we're managing to take all of the stuff from where it needs to go, inserting and extracting on all of the right faces of this machine, which is just shows how powerful Laser IO is. But all of that's working quite well. And basically, I'm now going to do the exact same thing for this setup here, because right now you'll see that we are not processing the elite or essence fast enough because of the fact that we only have 1 essence station here, which might not be a terrible idea. We do need to get 16 of these Mob Mastery Essence books, and for that, we need 3, 6, 9, 12, plus 4, 8, 12, 16. So we need 28 Elite or Essence per book here, and if we multiply that by 16, that's 448 Elite or Essence, and that doesn't include these 2 blocks here, so we need an extra 16 there. So actually 28 plus 16 is 44, multiplied by 16 is 704. So we do need about 10 stacks of this Elite or Essence just kind of on its own. And so for now, I might actually leave this kind of as it is, and we'll come back later and take what we have out. We could always use the time in a bottle to make this faster if we need to. We do have almost 7 hours there. So for now, I'm going to leave that as it is, and we'll come back to that in the future. So now that we have that up and running, and now that we've got everything else working as well, we are doing okay on Hellish Technium. We've got over 2 stacks now. We've got 2 stacks and 7. So for now, I don't necessarily think we need to add more induction smelters for amethyst shards. And again, it looks like now the problem has moved elsewhere. It looks like I assume... Oh, I thought it was going to be lava bottles, but actually it's aluminum sheet metal that is now the problem, although I assume that that is just a case of, once again, grabbing another resonant integral component and ideally grabbing 3 flux linkage amplifiers. Although, to be fair, I did put 3 flux linkage amplifiers into this machine, and I don't think it needs them at all. I think 1 flux linkage amplifier is going to do the trick just fine over there. So over here, if we do this and this, that should hopefully increase the speed of those aluminum sheet metals and, again, push the bottleneck to somewhere else. But we'll leave that going and we'll see if that gets us where we need it to go, which I think it will. We can now look at actually making some of these books. Now, I think the most difficult book for us to make is going to be the digital storage book. Some of these are super easy. We saw like the X compressor one here just needs a bunch of 9x cobblestone. We've got, I think, 2048 Noctuple compressed cobblestone down here, so that's really not a problem. We just need to make the mod paper for that, and we're good to go. The digital storage one, on the other hand, is going to be a little trickier. For this one, we need to get 8 of these 256K ME storage parts, and we need to do that 16 times. And so we're going to need another ME pattern provider, I think, which should be fairly straightforward, because we're going to have to teach our system how to make quite a lot of stuff here. So let's put that down like that. And then inside of the pattern terminal, we need to bookmark the 256K storage part. This one right here. Let me just check that is indeed the one that we need. It is indeed. And so we need to teach it how to make this, which is easy enough. Also, let me clear out my inventory just a little bit. We've got so much junk in here that we don't need to be carrying around with us. There we go. So we'll teach that. Then we'll teach you how to make the 64K component. You need 3 of those to make the 256K. Then we need the 16K. Again, you need 3 of those to make the 64K. Then the 4K, you need 3 of those to make the 16K. And of course, the 1K, you need 3 of those to make the 4K. So that's that bit taken care of. Quartz glass is then another one that we need to teach. That's just 4 glass and Certus quartz. Easy enough. We do need to teach it how to make Certus quartz dust, which currently it doesn't know how to do. Let me quickly just whack all of those into here. We do have our crusher over here, and I think we're going to have to move that crusher because this is really the only way that, also this is in off mode, this is like the only way that we can actually turn Certus quartz into Certus quartz dust. You can do it with the inscriber, but it's way slower. The crusher here is definitely the way that we're going to want to do it. And so over here, we'll throw that down like so, and by so I mean not that, like this. And of course, we'll grab another one of these ME pattern providers, throw that down behind like this, and then assuming we've got enough channels, we should just be able to do something like that. And now we can teach our system how to make the Certus quartz dust using the crusher in code, and we'll throw that in here. And then inside the crusher, we'll set all the faces to nothing, and then we should just be able to set the back to purple, which is input and output, auto eject on, and I think that should just work. Let me quickly try. If I want to make 10 Certus quartz dust, next and start, it should send Certus quartz crystals to here. It does indeed. Of course, power is required in order to make that work. That is fine. There we go. And yeah, that's going to work just fine. If we really wanted to, we could put a factory upgrade in this to make that even faster, which we might need to do because I think we are going to need a lot of Certus quartz dust, but we'll come to that when the time comes. Next up, Skystone dust is also one that could be tricky for us here. I didn't really think about the amount of Skystone that we're going to need. We're going to need a lot of Skystone dust to make these tiers. The glowstone should be fine. The redstone should be fine. The Certus quartz should also be fine. We should teach it this recipe right here, that it can make Certus quartz crystals just from nether quartz. We do have a lot of nether quartz, I believe, in the system. Yeah, we've got 200,000, so that is also not a problem. This has invalid pattern, though. Is it the case that the AE2 system can't use this pattern because it's like an unlocked pattern? Because it said stage AE2, and I think that the mod AE2 hasn't unlocked that stage. If that's the case, that's going to be a real pain in the backside. It's not the end of the world. It just means that we're probably going to have to do all of that crafting manually. Like, we're going to have to do all of the manual crafting of nether quartz into Certus quartz, because you'll see here it just doesn't recognize the craft. It can't do it, whereas if I try it like this, it does work. It just means we're going to have to do this and like manually craft a bunch of those down, which is not ideal, but should be fine. Real quick here, if we look at... So we need to make 8 of these per book, and we need 16 books, right? 8 multiplied by 16 is 128. So we need 128 256K ME storage parts. If I wanted 128 of these, what am I missing? So I'm missing 46,000 Certus quartz, which is fine. We can make it work, but it's just, we gotta craft those down. We're missing 3,000 glass. That's also, I think, kind of fine. I think the solution to that is just going to be to throw an upgrade onto our glass drawer over here, because we are making glass over in our induction smelter, and thankfully, with the new miners that we set up in the last episode over here, I did set up a few new miners with beacons, by the way, for sand, so these are all going, and we are now backing up on sand everywhere, which is good, but hopefully that will get us all the glass that we're going to need fairly quickly. Let me check that once again. 256. Okay, what else are we missing? 128 next. So we need 10,000 logic processors, and we need 5,000 calculation processors, and we need 512 Skystone. Okay, so that could be fine. I think what we probably want to do, I know I said earlier that I don't want to send stuff over here, like I don't want to send any cable over here, but I think we have to, because we have a system that is capable of producing the processes that we need. We just need to send the right ingredients. And so I think what we kind of need to do is we need to get another one of these pattern providers, and we need to put that onto this chest over here. If we put that down like this, and we rotate that to ideally point upwards, like that, we can now put a pattern in there that teaches the system how to make the logic processes and the calculation processes. So if I do this in code, we can now do the same for the logic processor as well in code, and we can drop both of those into this chest over here, or into this pattern provider, I should say, and now it's going to send all of the stuff required to this chest, which should be fine. And then if we run a cable from over there to over here, we can connect that up. The only thing we'd have to do from there is actually like import the final product, because everything gets put in this chest. The only trouble that we're probably going to run into here is just that this chest is not very big, and if it tries to make 10,000 circuits, I think things are going to go bad pretty quickly. There is also one more part we need to teach, and that's the silicon, I believe. The printed silicon needs to be taught. Again, we don't need the press, just in code. I guess we also actually, we do need to teach it to make this part as well, right? In code, and also along the same lines, we need to teach it this printed logic as well in code. So all of those need to be sent over. That should be everything it needs to know. But again, I feel like now if I was to connect this up and request 10,000 logic processors, this chest is just going to get rammed. And as soon as the chest is full, it's then going to kind of stop everything else from working, which is not ideal. How many different resources are we using here? We don't need the diamond. We don't need the engineering processes. We only need logic and engineering. And so the ingredients are redstone, gold, Certus quartz, and silicon. I think those are the only 4 ingredients. The 5th ingredient, I guess, 5th, 6th, and 7th would be the printed silicon, the printed calculation, and the printed logic. All right, so I've connected this up. I've run a cable from our second controller here all the way along, down, around, and up to here. And I think what we're going to do to try and get around the storage limitation is get yet another draw controller. I will go ahead and purchase the draw controller, as per usual, because they are incredibly cheap to purchase, and I think it is easier to purchase one than it is to craft one. Boom, and boom. And essentially, we're just going to have a draw for every ingredient. I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it, especially if we need a lot of items. So if we put the draw controller there, that should be fine. It just means that from there, we need to take some framed draws, and we need to have those connected up like this. And we just need to designate each one of these draws to a specific item for the specific crafts. So let me quickly lock those with our draw key. And then we need one for redstone. We need one for gold. We need one for Certus quartz. Then we need one for silicon. We are going to have to teach our system how to make silicon. Right now, it doesn't know how to do that. We don't have a smelter over here, right? We do not. And so along the same lines as what we've just done with the crusher, I think we're going to have to do the same thing with the energized smelter here. I think we're going to have to grab this and throw it down somewhere over here so that our system can use it for auto crafting. Now, we are kind of out of space on this side. And so what I might do is... I was going to say place it down here. That could work. At the same time, though, I could also potentially just put it here. And assuming, again, that we're not limited on channels yet, which we might be getting close to, ME pattern provider. If I get one more of these and place it down here, we can then, of course, once again, give that a quick rotate to face the right way. And then we can place another Flux cable here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think there's anything else on this channel, so I think 7 is the current number of items on the channel, which is perfectly fine. It means we've got space for one more if we want it. That provides it power as well, which is great. And so now we can set this to, again, input and output on the back with auto eject on, and that should just work. Let's quickly teach how to make silicon. It's going to be better if we teach it how to smelt nether quartz instead of smelting Certus quartz dust. That would be a much harder recipe for it to work with. Hopefully that does work. Let me give that a try. If I want to request, say, 100 silicon, next and start, that totally does work. Again, we could do with some more speed and energy upgrades before we were kind of moving those between the crusher and the energized smelter. Right now, we could kind of just do with them on both. It also looks like we could do with a little bit more in the way of gold dust. That's fine. The crusher can do that for us. Not that the energy upgrades are necessarily necessary here, just because of the fact that we do have more than enough power to kind of brute force it, but we might as well throw them in if we can make them. And yeah, now we can add silicon as a drawer over here. We are going to need to add at least one more drawer, and I'm going to do one over here as well for symmetry. So now we need to get a few more things. Look at that. Perfect. It put them in for me. So we have you, and then we just need the silicon press. So the silicon's already there, and so the silicon is being taken. And let me just do this just to be safe. This looks like it's working, though. We could use a drawer for diamonds. The diamond's not going to be necessary as part of this craft, but I might as well throw it down just to kind of fill things in. And so this should almost work. The final thing is we do need drawers for the final product as well. And so if we do a few more of these here, we need one drawer that can actually, well, we need drawers for all of these, I guess. Okay, fine. Let's do this and this. So we need a drawer for there we go, for this. And then up here, we need one for the calculation processor as well, which should be made. The annoying thing about what we've done, the way we've done this here, is that this front inscriber is where all of the work is done. So all of the processing has to be done on that front inscriber. We can make it a bit faster with this, of course, but that means that both the logic and the calculation are both made in the front, which will work. It's just not ideal. If we do this, I really want to make a printed calculation circuit so we can put that in there. Perfect. Okay, so let's lock that up. All right, this should now work. Let me get a bunch of upgrades just because we might not need them, but I think we will. Right now, they can only hold 2,000 of each item. If we request, 10,000, it might end up trying to fill these up. So let's grab a bunch of these and let's just make sure that every single one of these can hold like 65,000 items. Perfect. And so now I think all we need to do is get an import bus, and we need to just import the thing that we actually want, which in this case is a sticky piston, which thankfully we can make. But in this case, we need to take this, we're going to put the import bus on here, and we're going to import the ME logic processors and the calculation processors. So we're going to do this. We need to get another capacity card, just like we did in the previous episode. Throw that in up here. Chat is right, we should lock the drawers. We can lock all the drawers by right-clicking on the drawer controller, like this. Again, you kind of want to do that, not in the way I just did it, because now we've kind of broken it a little bit, which is not ideal. Let me, again, put another drawer down for printed silicon. We'll put you there. And I need another calculation press. Let me put you in back up there. And what else did we have here? I cannot remember at all what else we had here. Oh, gold's already in. Silicon's in. There was one for diamonds, which was not necessary. Oh, it's Certus quartz, of course. Thank you, chat. That's fine. We'll take you, put you there. All right, that's all locked. In here, we've got the capacity card. We're going to import these as well. Fantastic. And so if we connect this up like so, that should now begin to pull these into the system, which is kind of just the final step of the process, so that now when we ever request a craft, it can actually get the final product back, if that makes sense. It's actually going to get those circuits for future crafting. I'm going to make that import bus nice and quick with acceleration cards, and we should make sure that we have drawers on the other side for these processes, because again, we're going to be requesting thousands of them. We don't have a ton of space in our system, so let's do something like this, and like this, and of course, like this, and like this. Fantastic. All right, so that should be good to go. Let's try again with the 256K drive. If I want 128 of these, what is it looking like now? So we're still working our way there on glass, but it's getting there. Skystone and Certus quartz are an issue. So one thing someone did point out, which is a good suggestion, is that we can use another one of these sequential fabricators as a way to kind of, hopefully, get around the fact that we currently cannot use our AE2 system to make Certus quartz. let me do a quick test here. If I put nether quartz in here, this is able to turn nether quartz into Certus quartz, which is perfect. And because we do have one more channel left on this side, we should be able to get another pattern provider, put that down right about here, rotate that in like so, and it should already be connected. So that's perfect. And so now we're going to teach it the exact same recipe, which is this one here, but we're going to do it on the processing pattern. So we're going to say it's a processing recipe, not a crafting recipe. So I guess I'll have to do it manually. That's fine. Let's do U equals U in code. And never mind, you got to put the Certus quartz in the top slot in code. There we go. And then let's put U in here. And so, of course, we want to make sure we get a resonant integral component to make that fast. And I will request some more flux linkage amplifiers here to make these machines faster. You are going to set to insert and extract to the back. And that should just kind of work. Now, if we send nether quartz over, it should get turned into Certus quartz, and that Certus quartz should get put back into the system. Cool. And again, we'll make that very fast, like so. Good stuff. So that should be that taken care of. Now, if we go and request it again, 256K, I need 128 of these. That is done. So now we're just missing glass and we're missing skystone. So again, glass is just kind of one of those things that's coming in, and we'll get there eventually. It's just going to take a little while. Skystone, on the other hand, we need 512 skystone dust. And in order to make that, we need 512 skystone. So just like before, we can turn compressed stone into basalt. I think we did this previously. Do we have any stone? We have got a lot of smooth stone. We don't have a lot of stone. We have a little bit of compressed stone. And so I think what we're going to have to do, much like we did last time, is grab some of the stone that we have from here, compress that down, get some basalt, and then this time around, we should probably do what we didn't do last time, which is just set up a miner for the skystone. We don't need that much of it, but if we just get a miner going for it, it's going to allow us to make a ton of the stuff and an infinite amount of the stuff, so we don't have to do this recipe again in the future. Thankfully, we do have a lot of stone available. Hopefully, enough stone. That's not quite enough stone. We do need 8 triple compressed stone here. We've only got 1 here. Of course, we can make more beacons if necessary, and I do think we have a second stone miner, although this one right here is being actively emptied for the purpose of making the smooth stone, which is not ideal either. Actually, never mind. I completely forgot that you can purchase the skystone from this shop right here. We bought the shop. We made the shop, I should say. And here we can buy skystone. I completely forgot that that was a thing we can do. So I think I will spend a little bit of our hellish technium here to make that happen. If we take a few of those out, we should be able to use that to craft up a decent amount of tech books. We could set up a miner, but we only need 512 skystone dust, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just quickly check that. 128. Yeah, we need 512 skystone dust, which means we need 512 skystone, I believe. And so 512 divided by 64 is 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go 6 is there. We're going to go 7 and 8. Perfect. So that should be enough skystone to get all of the skystone dust that we're going to need. And we just have to run that through the crusher, which should be pretty straightforward. Again, we could teach it, but at the same time, we can just get an installer here, and we can turn our crusher into a crushing factory. We could even potentially go one step further and turn it into an advanced crushing factory to allow it to crush pretty quickly. For that, we do need some more infused alloys, but we should be backing up on infused alloys over here. Never mind, we're not backing up on infused alloys over here, but thankfully we do only need 1. Again, the bottleneck here is just the speed at which we're making these infused crystalline. We could steal some from here and throw them in like that just to make these a little faster. Thankfully, though, we do only need 2 to get the advanced installer, and with that advanced installer, we should be able to upgrade this guy, but we do have to first use the regular installer, like this, and then like this. And then we'll turn auto sort on, we'll drop all of these in, and we could potentially even go so far as to give that a quick tap, just to make it that little bit faster. And that's going to get us all of the skystone that we're going to need, or skystone dust, I should say, that we're going to need to make the 256K storage part. All right, so now that that is good, and we have over 512 skystone dust, the final thing outside of glass that we need to take care of is our CPU. Because the glass is coming in, we'll get there. The CPU is the next problem. You'll see that right now, we need a CPU that can process 436,850 bytes. And currently, our little measly CPU over here can only do 1,024 bytes. And so we need to make approximately 7 64K crafting CPUs. 64K is the... oh, it's not the highest, actually. I thought 64K was the highest. 256K is the highest. So to make the 256K one here, we do need one 256K ME storage component with a crafting unit. And so what we might be able to do... Can I request one of these? No. That's still too many bytes. That's fine. What I should be able to do is I should be able to request one more 1K crafting storage component, and that came in very quickly. Fantastic. We can then craft another one of these and get another 1K crafting CPU, and then you can actually put that down next to your pre-existing one, and that makes a 2K crafting CPU. So now this can do 2K crafts. And so now, if I requested, let's say, one of these, start and start, our system should have all of the tech required to make that happen. Of course, it's got a lot of stuff that it needs to do, and it needs to make all of this stuff, but it should make the 256K crafting component for us. I'm then going to make 2 more of these, because ideally, if we can just make 2 256K crafting components, we could then make 2 256K crafting storages. We could use those in addition or in place of these here, and that would give us a 512K crafting storage, which is higher than the 438K crafting storage that we need to request 128 of these storage components. One thing that could be quite useful for us to get is maybe some kind of crafting monitor to see how far along a craft is. But there we go. The first one is done. Let's do something like this. Let's go ahead and request one more of those. This one, for some reason, requires more. I assume that there's some stuff that we're missing, but that's fine. We can go ahead, get rid of you, place down this guy. Boom. And now we've got a 257K crafting CPU. Next and start. And then as soon as this is done, we'll go ahead and we'll replace this one right here with another 256K crafting CPU. And then at that point, we can take a look and see if we have what it takes to make everything else happen. Again, I think the only thing that's really going to be limiting us at the minute is just the production of glass. And again, we do have more flux linkage amplifiers here. We could put those in like that to make that just a little bit faster. Of course, at that point, we need to export the sand itself faster, but we do have the speed upgrades to make that happen as well. There we go. That should hopefully get the glass coming in a little bit quicker, and hopefully everything here shouldn't take too long. And not too long later, we have another 256K storage component. Boom and boom. We did run into some slight issues. Let me quickly do this. The issues we ran into are that we have kind of taught some of our recipes wrong over here. Right now, these 2 recipes think they need printed silicon, and we've also taught printed silicon. I think all 3 of these need to be changed. For one, we don't need to teach the system how to make printed silicon. That's not necessary. What we do need to do is we need to change these recipes. I think we're maybe just going to have to change them to processing recipes, which they kind of already are. We need to change them to use regular silicon, because what was wrong with our initial system is that the system expected to get printed silicon back, and that's not how the system works. If we change it to this will work. The reason this will work is that as soon as the silicon is sent over, the way we've set up our laser node, the silicon automatically gets turned into printed silicon and then just sits here. It then doesn't get pulled back into the system. Like, the printed silicon is not on the import bus, which is intentional, because if the printed silicon was on the import bus, then it's not able to be used in the craft. So swapping out those 3 patterns for these 2 patterns, I think fixes the issue for us. And now back over here, in theory, we should be able to request 128 of the 256K ME storage components. 128. Next. We have all the items, we have all the glass, we have a CPU that's big enough. Start. Now, you can click this crafting status button in the top right, and it will show you the current state of the craft. It shows you what's currently going on. You'll see right now we're just making a bunch of silicon. That's happening over here. All of that is good. We can obviously upgrade that to make it faster. It also gives you an ETA of how long it's going to take to finish. And currently, that ETA is 12 hours. Which I kind of think is maybe fine, because the time is fluctuating and it will fluctuate. I think it thinks 12 hours. It might take a little longer, like when the logic processes start getting made, because these are going to take a little while over in the inscriber. But I think that's fine. I think basically what we're going to do is we're going to chunk load the base. We're going to leave it going between streams. Next time, we'll come back, and I think we should be good to finish things up in the next episode. Once we have all of the digital storage taken care of, the rest of these are really not too bad. Between streams, our base is going to keep chugging along. We're going to come back to hopefully a decent number of Helix Technium. This should be full, this should be full, and this should be full. We should hopefully come back to a decent amount of elite mob essence. Over here, we've got 5,400 now. It's coming in thick and fast. We should come back to way more in the next episode. Same is true for all of the other Technium as well. That's going to back up slowly but surely. I think die-wise, we're pretty much there. Yep, we've got all the die that we need, and so we could kind of go ahead and turn that system off. In fact, what we should do is go ahead and throw a void upgrade in here, because otherwise we're going to start to fill up all of our drives, I think, with die essence, which would not be ideal. And so, yeah, next time we'll come back, we will hopefully make 160-ish mod mastery papers, which should be pretty easy. We'll start making some of the other stuff here. Again, none of these other recipes are anywhere near as bad as the digital storage one. This one here is by far and away the trickiest one for us to make. All the rest of them are fairly straightforward. You know, this one just wants us to get a bunch of tech books. 128 is not too tricky. It's just a case of having enough, you know, hellish technium, or even enough of the voided technium to get a lot of those. And so, yeah, I'll leave that running. I'll let it do its thing. It's going to slowly but surely work through all of this, and hopefully next time we'll come back to 128 256k ME storage components. We can use those to craft the digital storage books, and then we can work our way towards crafting the final Technium, and we'll finish the pack. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Techopolis 2 there.